Hello, I'm Mayor Watt. I'm the owner of that site right there. I run ohmTown.com. Sorry, I had to run. So, what is ohmTown? ohmTown is a news aggregator. It crawls the web, finds interesting articles. I've been expanding it and it's been causing some issues on the site. But just go ahead and go over to ohmTown.com and check it out. All the news gets aggregated into 6 categories: create, news, education, entertainment, social, and technology. My area of expertise is really 3, which is business, technology, and society, and kind of the crossroads of those 3. And because of my pretty broad interests, I don't like being fixed on one particular topic. And so I built ohmTown to aggregate all of my interests into one site, showed it to a bunch of people, and boom, you have what is now displayed on the stream, and also a podcast, YouTube channel, Twitter, Discord, etc., etc. I'm even thinking about going over to TikTok. Little video snippets. Don't know how entertaining it'll be, but some people want little bits of news and not an hour-long show. So I'll give it a shot. Kind of cut this hour-long show into little snippets and post it over there if you're interested. Nothing's going yet, though. At any rate, I've already selected about 20 articles across the last 24 hours. Sometimes, though, these articles have been edited or something has made them pop up to the surface again. So sometimes it'll be a couple of days old. Not much I can do about it without curating in a more heavy-handed way. But I would rather kind of filter through it live here on the stream, and you can always go over to ohmTown and filter out stuff that you are interested in, because you can subscribe to the channels that are underneath all of these categories. Right? I want to bring 50 shows to Twitch. 50 shows a week. And you can help me out. Just follow me here on Twitch. Let me know. That's kind of how you let me know that you're interested in this kind of thing. I don't go a deep dive into politics. I don't really do a deep dive into any particular topic, at least not yet. Once we get more focused shows coming out of ohmTown, then we can go a deeper dive, like a dictionary goes into basically what would be referred to as word crafting, where you come up with new words for businesses, products, services, etc. Semiotic ontology goes into a deep dive about how something gathers meaning, from a sign to the Nike swoosh to something else, whatever it might be. Why is the green associated with a certain emotion, or yellow supposedly a motivator to go eat? That's kind of what each of these channels underneath the topics, the categories, is designed to do, allow a deeper dive. But today and every day at 6 o'clock is the daily news show. Covers the last 24 hours. So let's get into it. The very first article that I'm going to talk about is in the Stock Marketeers channel. And this is a cannabis watch. Cresco Labs buying Columbia Care in major cannabis merger. Did you think that there would be, did you ever possibly think in the United States that there would be cannabis-based mergers and acquisitions? Cresco Labs is paying $2 billion in stock to buy Columbia Care in a deal that will add Virginia and New Jersey to its U.S. footprint as they roll out adult use cannabis. As opposed to what? What other than adult use cannabis is there that is legal in any way, shape, or form without a direct and pretty questionable medical concern. Anyway, this is a MarketWatch article. And again, I just want to remind everybody that when you look at something from MarketWatch, there's a first published date and a last updated date. And sometimes they can be quite expansive as additional information, more context is added to the article. This article is written by Steve Gelsey. And right there is your cannabis plant. It's a photo from the AP. So as I scroll down, you'll see the referenced symbols. If you're into business and you go over to MarketWatch, then you're familiar with these, but they basically are they are tickers, and they are relevant to the article and or the sector. So this is Curaleaf Holdings, Columbia Care Incorporated. So if you are interested in getting into a market that, as far as I'm concerned, is growing. Okay, so they're not all gems when I crack a joke, but in this particular case, made me giggle. Green Thumb Industries Incorporated. These are all, sub $25 stocks that you can become a part of. Break out your Robinhood account and invest. And you never know. Maybe it'll pivot and get acquired, or go it alone and go viral, gain some traction, and turn your investment into billions. Well, it has to start somewhere, and you might as well get into this ground floor of it. Hopefully, the federal government will move past its limitation on the cannabis market, legalize it, tax it, and give it the respect it deserves based on its benefit to society. It's a whole lot more beneficial than cigarettes, that's for sure. It's a whole lot more beneficial than alcohol. But again, keep in mind the negative is for anything other than water. Really, it is doing something in your body, and particles in your lungs, they don't come out. So it's always doing something negative, even with the positive side effects. Just keep it in mind. But investing, feel free. But this is the first merger that I have ever witnessed in this sector, but I haven't been paying much attention to it. Again, it's Cresco Labs is buying Columbia Care for $2.1 billion in stock, in a deal that will help expand its U.S. footprint. Pretty cool. So this next article, pardon me as I scroll back up, is over in the Hatch Ideas channel. Activist investor Ryan Cohen snaps up 100,000 GameStop shares, sending the Reddit darling soaring 20%. This here, I'm going to click this link. This article is over at businessinsider.com, and it's written by Shalini Nagarajan, or Nagarajan. Might be pronouncing that incorrectly. I'm really sorry for the inflection. And, it's really just a little snippet of information. Let me go back to this here. It says, Ryan Cohen bought 100,000 shares in GameStop, boosting his stake in the Reddit favorite. The transaction, made via his investment firm RC Ventures, gives him an 11.9% stake in the company, and after a 20% gain in after-hours trading, GameStop rose 11% in Wednesday's pre-market session. Not bad. So GameStop is basically a Reddit darling in that it was one of the, along with stocks like AMC, were the anchor that was holding Reddit Wall Street bets in place, steadfast against institutional investors and market manipulation. that they saw happening, and for which many people have spoken about more and more publicly. And this is something that I've always thought is odd in that, and I saw the most overt version of this, and maybe I just lacked paying attention to it previously. But when Facebook went public, the um, basically a clearinghouse was created that purchased the stocks to keep that price above 100. And to me, I thought it was market manipulation. Um, the market should bear whatever the market, I guess, pumps out. Whatever the result is from a day's trading, that's what it should be. That's what the confidence level is of investors. Unfortunately, in real time, you saw anybody who was monitoring the Facebook IPO watched the stock stay above 100. And if you do searches on Google about it, you'll find more articles about it than what I am talking about. But it was generally accepted procedure, so there wasn't too much of a fuss about it. But to me, I thought it was manipulative. Oh, pardon me 1 second. So I'm going to move on to the next article. Let me back up and paste this URL into the chat. So the next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. This is 10 things in tech. This is the Okta engineer hack. So let me just go straight over. This is a Business Insider article. Let me scroll down a little bit. It says Okta confirmed a hack. The authentication service, which is used by thousands of companies, confirmed that a hacker had access to one of its engineers' laptops for 5 days in January, but says its service has not been breached and remains fully operational. Without going too much further into this article, I encourage you to go over and read this article entirely, just so that you know what is going on. The fact of the matter is that if there is a breach and you have any service that's tied to it in any way, shape, or form, once that breach takes place, it's pretty typical to question it. What's going on with my particular information? So depending on the scope of it, they may not even know the full scope of the breach. But Okta has already mentioned that it was limited to around 360 or something like that customers out of the couple thousand that they have, or 12,000 that they have. I don't remember. And like I said, I don't read the entire article in the stream, and I read it afterward, but I had heard some things about Okta's hack, and it wasn't an internal hack. It was from an external service, but because they had access to internal processes, they gained access to some things inside Okta. If you think you might be compromised, you should notify them, but you should also notify your bank, change credit card numbers, et cetera, do what is necessary to mitigate the harm, because once you are informed, that's pretty much where the liability stops. You can't just let the abuse happen. Once you're informed of a breach, you have to take strides to mitigate any additional losses. So go over to Business Insider and you can read about it some more. The next article is in the Mobile channel, and it says sustainable leather, yarn, and paper from bread eating fungi. Your next trendy handbag could be fashioned from leather, quote unquote leather, made from a fungus. Today, researchers will describe how they have harnessed this organism to convert food waste into sustainable faux leather, as well as paper products and cotton substitutes with properties comparable to traditional materials. They explain that this fungal leather takes less time to produce than existing substitutes already on the market, and unlike some, is 100% bio-based. So there's the article in chat. You can go over and check it out. This is an article over at phys.org. Have I not been saying who these articles are from? If so, I'm really sorry. The Okta Engineer Hack article is written by Jordan Parker Erb for Business Insider. And I think that's the only one that I missed out on. So this article about fungi, leather, yarn, and paper is over at phys.org, and it's written by the American Chemical Society. And it says here under the caption or under the photograph, fungal fibers can be turned into yarn or a leather substitute. Yeah, and it looks like a little string of yarn, well, thread. Eventually it turns into yarn, I suppose. Your next trendy handbag could be fashioned from quote-unquote leather made from fungus. The researchers will present their results today at the spring meeting of the American Chemical Society. Cotton is in short supply, and like petroleum-based textiles and leather, its production is associated with environmental concerns. Meanwhile, plenty of food goes to waste. Akram Zamani, PhD, set out to resolve these seemingly unrelated problems with new bio-based sustainable materials derived from fungi. Quote, "We hope they can replace cotton or synthetic fibers in animal leather, which can have negative environmental and ethical aspects," says Zamani, the project's principal investigator. I've always thought that it was weird that, particularly in government contracting, principal investigator is the title of the person that might be doing some, I guess, investigation, research, fundamental research. I guess you're investigating something. Anyway, I always thought that it was weird. Quote, "In developing our process, we have been careful not to use toxic chemicals or anything that could harm the environment." And so here it says, just like humans, fungi need to eat to feed the organisms. The team collected an unsold supermarket bread, which they dried and ground into breadcrumbs. The researchers mixed the breadcrumbs with water in a pilot scale reactor. I wonder if that's industry specific terminology, pilot scale reactor. You'd think that that's very subjective. I've got a large scale pilot scale reactor versus a small one. Anyway, I digress. And added spores of Rhizopus delamar, which can typically be found on decaying food. As this fungus fed on the bread, it produced microscopic natural fibers made of chitin and chitosan that accumulated in its cell walls. After 2 days, the scientists collected the cells and removed lipids, proteins, and other byproducts that could be used in food or feed. Interesting. Everything that remained consisting of fibrous cell walls was then spun into yarn, which could be used in sutures or wound healing textiles and perhaps in clothing. Wow. It's fascinating what fundamental research can create, and I think that we need to continue doing that. But we spend just a ton of money on conflict and not education. We need to start, as a society, paying for college, for everybody to go through college. Everybody's paying taxes. All of that tax could go into paying people to go to college and pay teachers, grade school all the way up to college better if it's a public school. The next article is over in Stock Marketeers. Kelley Blue Book, the 2022 Chevy Corvette is supercar-like performance and a thrilling drive for a modest price. Modest is very subjective, folks. As ever, the Corvette offers outstanding value for anyone who wants superior handling and comfort without the supercar price. Yeah, I'm not sure if we all agree that it's not a supercar price. although I understand what a supercar is, it's pricey. So let's click this link so that we can see it. This is a Market Watch article written by Eric Brandt. And one of the best values in sports cars, it holds its own against the likes of a Porsche 911 and Audi R8. I would love either one of those. Corvette is so big to me. I mean, I've been in Corvettes, and they just get longer and wider. Maybe it's just my perception, but it is what it is. Anyway, so they have, as usual, the two referenced symbols. I'm not sure why they throw Apple in here, but they've got Porsche. And they list the pros and the cons, and you can go over and read it. But the MSRP of $60,900 for the coupe and $68,400 for the convertible. The 3LT convertible model starts at $79,850. So, you know, a starting price of $61,000 for the coupe. There is no four-door, so it's always a coupe. You know, I guess that is a reasonable price. Has a standard V8. I wonder if they talk about how much horsepower it has. The Porsche 718 Cayman and Boxster have similar starting prices, but the base four-cylinder engine is 718 in the 718 isn't as powerful, and the cost options can get crazy. Another close competitor of the Corvette is the Jaguar F-Type, which comes standard with a supercharged V8, but starts at just under 70,000. And that's, I don't know, it's a nice looking car. So what do you think? 194 miles per hour, mid-engine C8. You might want that convertible so that the sound falls right behind you without being trapped in the cockpit. So with the Z51 package, the 0 to 60 time of the Corvette is 2.9 seconds. So you're looking at Tesla acceleration speeds, but in something that can go a whole lot further. Pretty neat. Now all I need is a garage that it'll fit in. But let's continue on to the next article. It's in the Hatch Ideas channel. And if you're in my chat, thank you for coming. Please follow. You can make comments. I have the tag on there, backseat. Feel free. If you want to talk about something, just throw a question into chat or make a comment, and we can chat about it. Just know that it'll be part of the YouTube channel eventually. Maybe tomorrow morning. I don't know. Depends on if I can get this done tonight. In the Hatch Ideas channel, UK inflation jumps to a 30-year high of 6.2, intensifying the cost of living crisis. So, as you know, in many countries there is inflation. In some countries there's hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is when it's somewhere around 10,000%. And right now we're at around 10 in the United States, 6.2 here in the UK. It says it adds to a cost of living crisis in Britain, where energy bills, gas prices, and taxes are all rising. It also adds to the chances of the Bank of England will raise interest rates again in May. Ours in the US have been raising as well. Mortgage rates are above 4 now. Prices rose across the UK economy at the fastest rate in 30 years in the year to February, intensifying a cost of living crisis in the country. So let's go over to this article. It's in Business Insider, written by Harry Robertson. And let's see. Let me scroll down a little bit. I'm not really sure if there is much in the article. You definitely should go over and read it all. Like I said earlier, I don't read the entire article word for word on the stream. But know that there, at the rate it's going and in the ecosystem we are in, I'm predicting that we're going to have 1970s era inflation in the US. That means housing is pretty much going to become unaffordable to own. And rent is going to go up. Cost of living is going to continue to go up. Food and all of that is going to go up. Gas prices are going to continue to go up. And they're not going to climb back down. Although the way that I've seen things is maybe conflict would lower it, which has happened in the past. So we'll see what happens, but there's more to this, and we'll get to that at the end of this stream if I decide to continue, because I don't have links to it. I just have the websites that are talking about this. This next article, and like I said, I'm hinting at it right now, but I'll talk about it at the end if we have time. So this next article is billionaire investor Carl Icahn sees a recession or even worse looming and predicts a rough landing for the Fed. This is what I see, and this is why I chose this article in the stream. I had been doing some research and looking at what's going on with inflation, what's going on overall kind of around the world with major economic forces around the world, and growing conflict, growing influence of dictators, and more public aspects of these kind of authoritarian countries. They're becoming more present, more public. Like Saudi Arabia having a mass execution, and really no one really shrugging their shoulders more than all right. To me, it seems wrong to do it that way, that kind of thing. But us Americans, the moment we say anything, we're hypocrites because of what our government does, not what I do. Well, at any rate, with inflation booming this way, we're going to see a recession. There's no if or buts or ands or anything. That is exactly what's going to happen. We're going to end up with a recession. If we continue to have inflation growing, we will end up with a recession, and then it'll retract considerably. The economy will retract considerably, but there is still a massive amount of money floating around because of 2008. Yet we could remedy a lot of it by another cash infusion, but by eliminating a massive outstanding debt that just will not get paid off by the citizenry, and that's student loans. I don't see student loans being able to be paid back by the mass amount of people that were offered them. Not in the bulk sense of this. It will take time, 20 years, but not in the short. All that bailout money from 2008 could have been used to save a whole lot of people. So let's click this link and we'll get taken over to Business Insider. Shalini Nagara, I'm really sorry, Nagarajan. So Let me just scroll down so you can see it. It says here, billionaire investor Carl Icahn believes the U.S. is headed for a recession or maybe worse. Quote, I think there very well could be a recession or even worse, the Icahn Enterprises chairman told CNBC's Scott Wapner in a Tuesday interview. A recession refers to a period of significant economic downturn across an economy that lasts for more than a few quarters. This can be seen in a slump in the gross domestic product. And this actually hints at something else. It says here, the activist investor whose net worth is estimated at $22.7 billion is known for purchasing significant stakes in a company to either completely overhaul the board or set a new path aimed at delivering more shareholder profit. And all of this is part of the problem, not part of the solution. We can get into all of this, and people who bounce back at me that, well, it's not like the $22.7 billion is just sitting there under a mattress. No, it's not. But it would be better for society to be put under a mattress and consumed. And I can go into greater detail if you are interested in hearing it. Maybe I will kind of drip it out as time goes on, because I will get sidetracked and we won't go through all of the rest of these articles. But you can't have billionaires with $22.7 billion in the system being loaned out for 1, 2, 3, 4+% in return on investment. Why? Because unless it gets defaulted on, that money is going to have to grow. You will have to make more money because you can't gain 10% profits without that money coming from somewhere. And so the monetary system has to grow. It doesn't disappear from somewhere unless the Fed starts pulling money, retracting money from the system. So while you can see, it's kind of like a storm on the East Coast is not indicative of climate change. But when the sea temperature rises by 1%, that is indicative of climate change. Well, you on the stock market can make $1 million by investing properly. But when everybody or great numbers of peoples are loaning out money and it requires 5% return on the investment, all of that has to consume money from somewhere else. And if it's taking it off the board somewhere else, and people are required to pay their debts somewhere else, an additional infusion, you either end up with loans or somebody defaults or all kinds of other machinations. But if everything has to increase in value, think of it as a balloon. It has to keep on inflating. Something has to fill that space. More money in the system after too few goods creates inflation. This is part of the problem. Again, we can talk deeper about it, but I don't want to get you all too distracted by me ranting about one particular thing. I want to inform you about a bunch of things. And this next one, again, it's part of the inflationary processes. It's in the Hatch Ideas channel. Sand for fracking is now 3 times as expensive as it was last year, and it's one of the several reasons U.S. oil production isn't increasing. In the article, it says a hydraulic fracturing manager holds a mixture of sand and water, which is pumped down the pipes at a shale gas site in the UK. And this is in reference to a picture on the site. So you click the Business Insider article, and there's that picture and the caption, right? So what's going on with this fracking sand and why is it 3 times as expensive? Well, you're going to have to go over and read the entirety of that article. But it's driving home a point that costs are increasing, and nobody has really explained why the costs are increasing. And every time I look back, trying to find the source of the increase, I find another layer, right? And we're going to come to it. I've got a bunch of articles. I'm only halfway through this. But there are some articles at the end of this, and I'm going to ask a question, and I would love to hear from somebody. It says, with Russian oil on the international blacklist due to the invasion of Ukraine, the world is seeing a replacement for as many as 4.5 million barrels per day, which is nothing. Indeed, analysts at Rystad Energy Consultancy estimate that global trade of crude is down by an average of 1.5 million barrels per day since the beginning of Russia's assault on its Eastern European neighbor. Nearly a month on, crude oil is trading at over 110 per barrel. A price, by the way, this I'm not reading from the article right now. It's my statement. There are people that are saying that oil could go to 200 per barrel and that it's okay. No, it's not okay. It's not okay for the population of any country that oil goes to $200 per barrel. It will price out people who can't afford to refill their gas tanks, because right now gas is at $5, in some places even higher, and is high in the UK as well. So no, and that's at half the price that some people are talking about being $200 per barrel. It's at 110 right now, and it's $5 a gallon. So it says, one of the key reasons actually predates the war in Ukraine. A special sand required for hydraulic fracturing, frac sand, in shale oil production has gotten a lot more expensive. So it says, now that material costs between $40 and $45 per ton, Rystad Energy analyst Ryan Hassler told Axios. Nearly 185% higher than last year. 2 years ago, sand prices were in the teens. So why? Why is it? It says, in either case, shortages of labor and transportation capacity have been complicating drillers' efforts. This is 2 years into the pandemic. 2 years. And nobody saw any of this coming. 2 years, and now we're on the other side of the pandemic, and nobody has either optimized, gotten some new equipment, brought in some people that are willing to go and work. Oil drilling is lucrative. It's lucrative for people to just come in for a summer, for crying out loud, and they'll walk out with 6 digits. At least 20 years ago, when it was offered to me, yeah, you could have made some serious change. But I didn't have, the oomph to carry my weight on a rig somewhere. But at any rate, the whole idea of this is almost laughable. You can hire people, pay them what they're worth, and they will go and work. So it says, we can't get enough sand. Tall City Exploration CEO Michael Ostman told the Wire Service last month, we're running less than the number of fracking stages we could pump in a day because we've run out of sand every day. So why do you run out of sand? Because the producers aren't producing anymore? That's an industrial process. There's few humans involved in it. It's an automated process. Yeah, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Somebody from the fracking industry, come and talk to me. Happy to set up a Zoom. We can chat. I'd love to know. But I'm going to have to continue on to the next article. Otherwise, we'll be here until midnight. The next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. It says, I'm the CEO of Sunmade, the iconic raisin company. I work a hybrid schedule that's improved my work-life balance, and here's how I plan my mornings. So I'm going to jump over to this article real quick. But it says each morning he catches up on agriculture news and meets with staff about timely supply or labor challenges. This is what his workday morning is like. As told to writer Robin Medell. Click this link. So Robin Medell is the author of this over at Business Insider. And I have to say that it says here, I have a hybrid schedule and work in the office at least 3 days a week. So, and this is the CEO. A lot of people are not being given that kind of leverage themselves. They're in the workforce, but this is kind of the face of a company. So they, arguably need to be present. But that's their choice. They're really supposed to be out managing the company and being the voice of the company and making connections and inroads for the company at a different level, really, particularly if they have marketing components and other business process components. And for Sunmade, you can bet your bippy that they do. Anyway, it says COVID-19 brought work-life balance to the forefront at Sunmade. The entire team has a new level of appreciation for everyone's time outside of the office and schedules meetings accordingly. The majority of my meetings are virtual now, which allows me to make more time for family needs than in pre-pandemic times. Not only that, and this is me talking now, not the article, I can get more meetings done in a day because I don't have to account for time moving from one place to another in an enterprise. I have all of my information at my disposal immediately. And it can be recorded and there are records. And so not to mention, I don't have to drive anywhere. I don't spend 2, 4, 6 hours a day stuck in traffic, not getting paid while I'm sitting in traffic. So really, what is the problem? As long as I get the work done, my presence is still felt because I'm still getting stuff done. It says I spend 30 minutes prepping for the workday by checking my email and reading the news. See, I'm always checking the mail and I'm always checking the news. Why? Because it keeps me informed. And I can triage my mail and the news throughout the day. So not everybody does that kind of stuff. But if I'm sitting there having to walk around or drive, I'm disengaged from anything other than that because I have to focus on driving or I have to focus on walking over to the next destination instead of staring at my phone. It's dense to suggest that people need to return to the office if you can do it from your home office. But it's all the context that matters. There's a lot of fidelity in that statement, by the way. So this is it's an interesting take from the CEO of Sunmade. So go over to appleinsider.com and read this article about the CEO of Sunmade. It's written by Robin Medell, Madell, just in case. This next article is over in Prime Glass, celebrating creativity with spring-inspired minimalism. I'm just going to click this link and take us over to it because it's a picture. It'll be hard to explain all of this, but in the stream. So this is a blog post. It says here it's published by Feature Shoot. And basically, they over at 500px.com, they talk about photography and they have these great pictures and it's always great quality. And they're talking about using fresh flowers and they have pictures of the fresh flowers and color trends and things like that. That's what this article is about. But I have a channel that I want to launch that focuses on photography, the people, the technology. And this is just one article in that channel that was aggregated from 500px. I'm going to scroll up real fast, so I'm really sorry if you're watching the stream. But go over and check it out. You won't regret going over to 500pix.com. 500, it's the number 500 and then px.com. So let's go on to the next article. Ford poaches Apple executive for Ford Plus restructure. Apple executive Jennifer Waldo will join Ford as part of the company's Ford Plus restructuring and ambition to take on Tesla with electric vehicles. And let's go over, because there's a rumor of Apple Car. This article is coming out of appleinsider.com. It's written by William Gallagher. And it says here, Ford has previously poached the head of the Apple Car project, Doug Field. Now, however, it's reportedly hired Jennifer Waldo, whose role at Apple was, in the much broader view, one of vice president, people, business partners. It says here, according to the Detroit Free Press, Waldo will be Ford's new chief people and employee experiences officer. Interesting. It's the top human resources role in the company, reporting directly to the CEO, Jim Farley. Well, good luck, Ford. I don't really like the idea, the term poaching. We've built this idea of you become, I don't know how to describe it. You're rotating from one company to another, seeking either fiscal growth or a challenge to whatever skills you have. But poaching it just gives it a negative connotation to it. But that's not how it is. It's a business agreement. An employee was hired. It's not really poaching. It's not like she was clubbed and dragged off to a cave, for crying out loud. That's not how it works. But this is pretty neat. This next article is the Smack Talk channel, and the title of it is Apple lobbied New York State to adopt digital driver's licenses. Newly released state lobbying records have revealed that Apple met with the local Department of Motor Vehicles to discuss adopting its digital driver's license plan. Let's click this link. It takes you over to Apple Insider again. William Gallagher wrote this article and has a picture of somebody on the iPhone with their driver's license displayed. I think it's kind of neat. I don't know how the more old school police uniforms will appreciate it. Because, if you can't hold it, maybe somebody's going to fake it. Well, you're going to need a whole new set of software and probably RFID encryption and verification processes. But they don't go into much detail over at Apple Insider about it. It just says support for digital and mobile driver's licenses was spotted in a beta for iOS 15.6, and Apple has previously announced which U.S. states have decided to adopt the technology. According to the Times Union, New York State lobbying records show that Apple and its lobbying firm, the Roth Group of Albany, met with DMV Deputy Commissioner Gregory Klein. I'm all about getting rid of cards. If I can have it digital and everything secure, I'm all over it. So let's continue on to the next article. Maybe your driver's license will be digital shortly. This next article is Noctua aims to create even more absurd graphics cards with Asus. And this is in the Warcrafters channel because of the source. So the source is PC Gamer. I'm just going to go straight over to it, kind of speed this up a little bit. And it's written by Jacob Ridley. And it has an Asus times Noctua graphic on here. And it says, Noctua teamed up with Asus to produce the absolutely massive RTX 3070 Noctua OC Edition graphics card. If you aren't familiar with Noctua, their fans are just awesomely quiet. And for me, rugged as all get out. I've never had a Noctua fan fail. Now that I said it, I'm sure my computers are going to blow up now. But I just want to get my hands on a reasonably priced RTX 3070. Meh. Before the 40 series comes out, I would like a 3070, but it's just not in the cards. I'm not going to pay $2,000 for a GPU. Anyway, it says Noctua is famed for its chunky and effective coolers and fans, and paired up with a high-performance GPU manufacturer could make for a silent, if a little absurd, graphics card worth drooling over. I don't know about absurd, but definitely quiet. And I actually swap out every fan that I can on my computers with Noctua fans. I don't need to see if they're pretty or not, because the color scheme for Noctua fans isn't necessarily the best for my tastes. But I don't really care about the inside of the computer as long as it functions and is fast and efficient and reliable. So maybe with another manufacturer coming out, we'll get more cards. That's what I want. So let's continue on to the next article. Introducing the Citizen ProMaster Mechanical Diver 200M. Yes, this is an article about a watch. In 1983, a Citizen Challenge Diver from 1977 was recovered from an Australian beach. The watch was covered in barnacles, indicating it had been underwater for quite a few years, as these slowly build up over time. Surprisingly, it was still in running condition as the movement was shielded from water and dirt. Let's click this link. If you go over to monochrome-watches.com, you'll probably see this article on the front page. I'm not quite sure. But this was written by Robin Nooy, Nooy. And they always have really great pictures, but this is the reinvention, essentially, of that challenge diver watch that was recovered from 1977. And they've kind of modernized it. The color scheme has changed slightly from that 1977 watch. But I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Again, this is about the Citizen ProMaster Mechanical Diver 200M. NB6021 is the full model name. Anyway, they show a picture of the original watch that was found, red strap and barnacles and all. And where the other watch had the green luminescent demarcations on the face of the watch, this one is, the new one is white. Different technology in place, but at any rate, it's almost identical. It's all but identical. It's got that same chunky look to it, but that's what a diving watch is, a diver's watch is, even if it never hits the water. So I'm going to continue scrolling down. It says, over the years, Citizen's expertise led to the introduction of Super Titanium, a registered trademark combining the brand's titanium processing technologies and Duratec surface hardening process. And let's see how much this costs. So it says here, this automatic movement runs at a frequency of 28,800 VPH and uses 24 crystal or joules. It offers a decent 42-hour power reserve and is regulated to run within -10 to +20 seconds of deviation per day. I think they can do better than that. As we've learned before, the movement is anti-magnetic to fields up to 16,000. Yeah, I guess a better understanding of it would be 200 gauss, as close as 1 centimeter away, which is certainly reassuring. Yeah, I suppose so. Still can't get it within a MRI machine. The movement is hidden from view by a solid titanium caseback. So let's go down here. Where is the price? Oh, price to be confirmed. So they don't have the price for this one. But go over to monochrome-watches.com and check it out. You might like that watch. The next article is in the continuity report. And it says Tencent's profits surge to $35 billion despite, quote unquote, challenging year. Net profits at Tencent climbed by 41%. That's a challenging year. To $35 billion at Tencent, China's social media, games, and streaming giant in the year to December. Revenues were up by 16%. To 87.8 billion. Despite the profit surge, the company's management described 2021 as a, quote, challenging year. They were not being disingenuous. Yeah, well, a little cagey about it. This article is written for Variety.com by Patrick Frater. And it says here, they were not being disingenuous. China's tech sector has operated for nearly 2 years under a cloud of increased regulation, political uncertainty, and recently whipsawing share prices. Yet not to mention, a pandemic. Yet, again, another company, massive profits, while people are struggling to pay for gas. Again, where is all this money coming from? Regulators are known to have crimped Tencent's huge Chinese games business by a halt on new game approvals. Wow. And through technical measures intended to reduce games addictions in minors. Yeah, they actually kind of hobble how long you can game if you're under a certain age. Behind the scenes, China's regulators are believed to have put pressure on the company to unwind market-dominating positions and to make financial contributions to the government's quote-unquote common prosperity initiative. Sure. So go over to Variety.com and read this article. It's titled Tencent's Profits Surge to $35 billion Despite Challenging Year. The next article is in the continuity report as well. NFL sets deal for its first virtual reality video game. The National Football League is coming out with its first VR game title, promising to embed fans in gridiron action like never before. The league has long been a player in video games, most notably with EA's 34-year-old Madden NFL franchise. Now the NFL is teaming with Status Pro, a sports tech and gaming startup. Let's click that link and take us over to Variety. It's an article written by Todd Spangler. It has a big old NFL logo on it, which I thought is always verboten. Anyway, it says here, the game is slated to be available on Meta Quest and Sony's PlayStation VR headsets, but otherwise there are scant details. The League and Status Pro say the game will let players, quote, play like a professional football player through a first-person 3D immersive experience, end quote. Additional information, including release date and pricing, will be announced later. Yeah, I guess. I'm not sure how this is going to work. Unless you have a VR rig where you can run in place, it's only limited immersion. I mean, you're supposed to be running around on a football field, for crying out loud, catching and throwing and tackling and all that, but it's hard to do in VR. Otherwise, you're just sitting shotgun while somebody else is doing all the work. Go over to Variety.com and read this article. I've got one more article, and then I'm going to get up on my soapbox for a minute. This is the word in tech. Google tidies up its smart home app. And the article's a little snippet that I've got here is Google wants to tidy up the event feed in its home app to make it easier to see what's happening in your smart home. An update coming later this month will feature a clutter-free layout, the search giant says, and it'll group related entries to avoid you having to scroll through a list of repetitive events. Yeah, and they have a screenshot, so I'm going to click the link and take us over to it. I didn't post it in chat, so let's post that in chat. And I'm sorry if you're in the podcast that I'm mentioning chat. You're going to have to come over to Twitch. Just go to twitch.tv/ohmTown and you'll be able to hang out with me. Typically, well, right now, until further notice, it's always 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern. And I do a show for an hour, which is what this is right now. So this article is over at The Verge. It's written by John Porter. And if you have a Nest thermostat, and I've got two of them, one for each floor, and let's just say that the Nest app used to work just fine. And then for some reason, over the years, it's just gotten, for me, clunkier and broken. And I'm on The Verge, which is ironic since I'm at theverge.com. I'm on the verge of just bowing out of the Nest thermostat. And maybe I'll gift it to somebody else so that they can deal with it. But now I have to switch over to the Home app and link everything over there, because I've had this problem with my thermostats that the app just sits frozen for an extended period of time and sometimes closes out altogether. Not really the best experience anymore. So, but again, that's just my experience. And yes, I know that they're getting rid of the Nest app and stopping the maintenance of it. And it's just a shame. It's going to drive me away. I'm not interested in going to another app. This has happened before with other things. And I get kind of burnt out with, and I'm an early adopter, I dig this kind of stuff. But the app was working. So why mess around with it? Why break the system? At some point it will just kind of stop, like the Ring, which I dropped wholesale because of this. Anyway, go over to The Verge and you can check it out. The smart home app from Google is going to get updated and it'll make it a better experience for you. And so that's really the end of the rundown of the news, but I wanted to take some time today, and not very long. I just want to kind of pique your curiosity on this subject. And maybe if you as a listener or viewer or in my chat right now would like to take a stab at this, that would be great. And you can get in touch with me however you want. Shoot me an email, go over to ohmTown.com and contact me there, make a post, send a message in chat, tweet back over at twitter.com/ohmTown. Get in touch. Well, my point here is sometime late last year, there was a CEO that said, the days of cheap food are over. And I'm trying to find the article, but the signal to noise ratio right now is a little high. So I'm trying to find the exact CEO that said it, because since then, other CEOs and other analysts have said the same thing. Well, this is from October 19th, 2021, where a billionaire grocery store owner predicts food prices will surge 10% over the next 2 months. And this article is written by Kate Duffy from Business Insider. And there hasn't been much noise about it. But this year in January, you see this massive spike of the cost of food going up. And again, it's anecdotal because it's different in every location until somebody does a broad spectrum data gathering effort and looks at everything, right? So it says here, quote, "I see over 10% in the next 60 days, he said, per a Fox Business report." And again, doesn't seem like there's much noise about this. So why are the prices going up? So it says in the article, prices of food are spiking because, in part, of falling production caused by a shortage of workers and supply chain problems such as shipping delays. This is paired with increasing consumer demand. There is no increasing consumer demand. We have the same population that's consuming, and it's a steady trend. It can almost be predicted based on the current population and historical growth rates. We use automation for the bulk of food processing with hands on certain products. And then at the last mile, hands again. But we're 2 years after the beginning of the pandemic. More people than ever are vaccinated. More people than ever are wearing masks. And now, because we're at the end of the pandemic, supposedly, masks are dropping away. People are still vaccinated. More people are getting jobs, or supposed to be getting jobs, right? Because business is returning to the new normal. In supply chain, why hasn't anybody addressed it in any meaningful way? Because there's ships sitting out there waiting. So where really is the bottleneck? If there is a bottleneck, then we need something that remedies that bottleneck. The only thing I can think of to remove the human component is automation. Well, when it comes to something like this, what happens? Either the prices increase or money is invested in things that make the effort, whatever the process is, more efficient. You spend that money, you recoup the costs, you make everything faster, better, stronger, and you're in business for a longer period of time. Otherwise, everybody else is going to have to suffer, both because there's limited supply of stuff. Like, I can't even go to the store and get okra anymore. What is that all about? Anyway, that's, again, I get distracted by random thoughts. But the point I'm trying to make is we have already anticipated this shortage of workers. We've already anticipated this production problem because of COVID. Yet I hear stories of it no longer being an issue. And then there's this counterweight of all of these articles saying that there is this massive shortage of workers, et cetera, et cetera. But this article was talking about October. Well, what about now? Well, this article here is over at CNBC, and it says rapidly rising food prices may give restaurants an edge. And here's why. This is in January 12th. An article at cnbc.com, written by Amelia Lucas. And it says here, food prices are soaring, putting pressure on restaurants and grocery store shoppers alike. But the cost of eating at home is climbing faster than bills for dining away from home, which could help restaurants regain the share of stomach, quote unquote, that they lost during the coronavirus pandemic. Well, restaurants that pivoted to dine out recovered a whole lot faster because they no longer had that massive carbon footprint of a restaurant's door and the whole seating area. And although, again, it's anecdotal, I don't have a broad spectrum reference data set. But instead of having to ramp up everything and all of the people that are associated with it, they could focus on food production. And a couple of my frames just dropped, but anyway, and so it says here, as the restaurant industry tries to bounce back from the crisis, eateries are competing not just with each other, but also against grocery stores and meal kit services for consumers. In 2020, 51.9% of consumer spending on food was for at-home occasions, marking the first time since 2008 that consumers opted to allocate less than half of their food budget to away from home eating. Pretty interesting, right? But that doesn't mean that restaurants completely collapse, because it still costs, $20 for a burger from a restaurant with all of the fixins, and you still have to drive over and pick it up. And restaurants were doing exactly that for the last 2 years. They either do that or they go to the store, right? So rising prices at the store, why is that? Consumers still are purchasing it, but it should lower the cost in the stores because they're bulk purchases now at the store at a higher level. So with those economies of scale, food should never have been increasing in price because people are still buying it either from the restaurants they're purchasing it or they're purchasing it from the store. Well, you scroll down a little in this article and they have a graph that shows January 20 to maybe the end of 2021. And it has the price for food away from home at 6% and food at home at 6.5. So this, again, highlights what I keep stating is predatory pricing. Now that people are trapped at home because of the pandemic, prices have increased. Nickel and diming because it's a captive audience. It's literally like people trapped in a building and you're saying, I'll let you out for $5. And I may trigger people when I say literally, but we're trapped at home. We can't all go out all the time. Because of the pandemic, a lot of people don't want to go to a restaurant. They still don't want to go to a restaurant. Why? Because you can still die because of the virus. It's not like it's just suddenly disappeared. It's just a great number of people have been wearing masks. A great number of people are vaccinated, and a great number of people understand what social distancing is, even in the time now where supposedly it's declining. But then depending on how derpy everything goes, you can have another explosion of the virus in your locality. So what really is causing the prices to go up? If you believe it's basically a perfect storm of a bunch of things related to COVID, I guess that's what it is, but I don't buy it. I think that the raw producers know that if everybody acts in unison, you see a competitor raise their prices and you can raise your prices. If you lower your prices to be competitive, the competitor has to lower their prices. Well, if everybody is just, monkey see, monkey do kind of thing, you see prices rise. And there's a ton of money out there. Again, we've been infusing the economy with money in the United States. Others have been doing it in their areas. We're going to end up with inflation and then recession. And pricing for food is going to be an untenable position for many, many, many people. Okay. And that's where I'm going to end tonight's stream. And I hope to hear from somebody. I threw a bunch at people and I would love to hear from people. So like always, you go to the front page of ohmTown, you click the page, and I've been working really hard on a bunch of things. So hopefully it doesn't break. It broke earlier today because I did something. And there you have it. Another batch, a whole bunch of things just got sorted into the Aerith channel, which is a channel about writing. And I'm going to have to call it a night. And I want to thank everybody who is checking it out on YouTube or the podcast. I just moved the podcast over to a new host. I hope it's working. I'm waiting for analytics to start kicking off. And I'll be adding all of the podcasts over podcast episodes. We're up to 81 now. This is 82. Anyway, thank you very much for coming. I will see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern. Bye-bye.